Hey, I want to say hello to all of you from around the world. I want to welcome you back to another beautiful edition of Soulivity Today. We're broadcasting live from our studio right here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson, and I hope you are ready for an amazing week because I'm glad you're here. Today's show is going to knock your socks off. I'm joined today by the host of Consciously Awesome Living, Sheila Applegate. Hello, Sheila.
Hello, Brian. It's great to be here, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. We had a both of us had a busy week last week, and so we're back with another live show today. And I
Mhm.
think it's gonna be really, 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 really good. What have you been up to over the last week or so?
Oh man, Brian, I had such an amazing week last week because I don't know if we've talked about it before, but I am one of the founding board members of the Aduna magazine. It's an online
Mm,
um, literary magazine, and every year they do a gathering it's a poetry reading, and it's in the style of the Harlem Renaissance rent house parties. So
oh
it is so much
wow.
fun. Yeah. And these poets that I've gotten to know, these really powerful women, Tamara was on my show once. These really powerful women from around the country are here to read their poetry, and I only really get to see them once a year. And so we hung out. This is late for me, but one night I was out till midnight, the next 11. I was just like out every night with these incredible people. So it's just very fulfilling.
Oh man, I loved having her on our show. Oh my gosh. It was
Yeah. And she did say she'd
so
come on
cool.
this one. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that was when we were doing this morning with Soulivity before we changed over to Soulivity today. And she read one of her poems and from her book, correct? She
Well,
was
that was
coming out with a book.
Chantel. That was Chantel,
Chantel,
who is
okay.
part of that too. Yes. She actually
Gotcha.
wasn't
So I'm
there this year. I got to check in on her. But Tamara was on my show, Consciously Awesome Living.
Mhm.
And you loved her then too. We'll get
Oh,
her on.
that's right. Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh, that's so right. Um, yeah, I remember. Okay, okay, okay. So
She was in a
now I'm
hotel because she was
remembering.
at a funeral, and it was a whole thing. But
That's
she was still
right. I
amazing.
forgot
She
about
like
that.
she could all the chaos around her, and she just showed up.
And she was great. Oh man, that's right.
She's
When
amazing.
we were
Yeah.
screaming everything like, okay, all right, all right. So everybody see back doing live, seeing my brain was trying to catch up with my spirit. So I apologize for that today. So that's great. Oh man. Oh man.
How
Okay.
about you?
So I have just been there's so much going on with the platform. Um we are beginning our health equity stories and features this
Mhm.
week, where we're actually going to be doing recording of some interviews and that kind of thing and putting them out to everybody. So I'm so excited about it because we're going to have experts from all over the country talking about what health equity means, what inequities exist in different forms, but also what other resources and support exist as well. And so, really excited about it, and what we're going to be doing with Soulivity and bringing to everybody. So that's what I was up to.
That's
Just
exciting.
busy, busy,
Yeah.
busy, 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 busy. Um, you know, Today's show is I'm glad you're here with me for this show because I think the two
Me
of
too.
us um are the perfect people to kind of talk about this subject of emotional intelligence and awareness. um I think it's something that people kind of talk about but aren't really sure, or they just have this belief. that they are emotionally intelligent and aware, but really are inside aren't really sure if they are or not. And so I'm glad we're going to be talking about this because we're going to be doing some real in-depth discussion about this. But I wanted to begin today's show with this one clip from the Big Think YouTube channel with noted psychologist Daniel Goleman, who kind of goes into this detail around what is emotional intelligence. So let's check this out.
Emotional intelligence refers to how well we handle ourselves and our relationships. There are 4 domains. Self-awareness, knowing what we're feeling, why we're feeling it, which is a basis of, for example, good intuition, good decision-making. Also, it's a moral compass. The second part is self-management, which means handling your distressing emotions in an effective way so that they don't cripple you, they don't get in the way of what you're doing, and yet attuning them to them when you need to so that you learn what you must. Every emotion has a function. Also, marshaling positive emotions, getting ourselves involved, enthused about what we're doing, aligning our actions with our passions. The third is empathy, knowing what someone else is feeling. And the fourth is putting that all together in skilled relationship. So that's what I mean by emotional intelligence. There are many definitions out there. The part of the brain, it turns out, that supports emotional and social intelligence is actually the last circuitry of the brain to become anatomically mature. And because of neuroplasticity, the brain shapes itself according to repeated experiences. So my argument is, hey, we should be teaching kids regularly, over time, in a systematic way, self-awareness, self-management, empathy, and social skill. And in fact, there are now enough programs, and they've been around enough in schools, that they're about to publish a huge meta-analysis looking at hundreds of schools and kids that had the program versus those that don't. And guess what? All antisocial behavior, disruption in class, violence in school, goes down 10%. Pro-social behavior, liking school, well-behaved, up 10%. Academic achievement scores up 11%. So it really pays. Executive function, which is mediated by the prefrontal lobe, both helps you manage your emotions and helps you pay attention. So as kids learn these skills, they also learn basic learning skills. I think that the fact that that was an argument was one thing that caught people's attention. Then there was a little chapter on called Managing with Heart, which argued that leaders who were sons of a bitch were actually defeating the company's own mission. And I think that made a lot of people happy because they work for people like that. I don't know, some people gave it to other people because they thought they needed help in this domain. I'm sure there's a zillion reasons why people like the book. I know IQ has been going up for 100 years as children encounter a more sophisticated cognitive environment as they grow. I don't know that we're becoming more emotionally intelligent. I like to hope we would, but I think that the number of intergroup wars going on, the intergroup hatred going on, the levels of familial abuse, in other words, indicators of emotions out of control in dangerous ways, don't look that great, which is why I'm a very strong proponent of getting these social emotional learning programs in every school worldwide. You have to remember that emotional intelligence is a range of abilities: self-awareness, emotional self-management, empathy, social skills. Women tend to be better than men on average at empathy, particularly emotional empathy, sensing in the moment how the other person is feeling. And also it's at social skills, at keeping things feeling good between people and a group. Men, on the other hand, tend to be better on average at self-confidence, particularly in groups, and at managing distressing emotions. But what's very interesting is if you look at leaders who are in the top 10%, there's no difference between the men and the women on any of those variables. In other words, you have a whole human being. So I would say that on average, there probably are differences, men and women, in this domain of ability. But as people develop their skills, as people become more effective, they pick up strengths in areas that they need. I think that emotional intelligence is a universal, but it looks different in different places. Japan has a very rigid set of rules of social interaction, lots of subtleties. Americans typically blunder into the Japanese system, don't get what's going on, and it's embarrassing. But they wouldn't recognize necessarily emotional intelligence in Japanese setting. Brazil is a very different culture. It's very outgoing, kind of like an Italian culture, and so it would look different there. But I think the fundamentals are the same.
Pretty cool, right?
Mhm.
So, Sheila, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, is emotional intelligence and awareness rare? And it was funny because what I found out was there was a recent study by Talent Smart that showed that while all people experience emotions, right, it is a select few who can identify accurately them as they occur, which is like so bizarre. And that the research showed that only 36% of people can do this, which is problematic because unlabeled emotions often go misunderstood, which leads to irrational choices and counterproductive actions. This is according to Talent Smart. So I thought that was like, man, what did you think about Daniel Goldman and what he was talking about?
Well, I thought it was a lot to unpack. There was a lot in there. So
Right,
I want to
exactly.
start and break it down and kind of go back to the beginning, because in my earlier days when I worked in the main, so let's just say emotions have been, even though I'm known as a spiritual conduit and healer and teacher, emotions have been the fundamental piece of all of my work and teaching throughout my career. So beginning as a child therapist, I worked in schools. I worked with kids that were, at that point, I'm sure the label has been renamed, which I think is good.
Hmm.
It must have been, because it's not really very, but they were called severely emotionally disturbed kids is what it was called. And so I worked in a school with these kids, and there were plenty of therapists, and you just begin, even in elementary, it doesn't, or high school, if they haven't received it yet, there's worksheets, and you've got your
Yeah.
emojis from back in the day that were just drawn, and mad, sad, you're starting with the four basics and getting them to identify and then move it out into the nuances of emotion. But it is true,
Hmm.
people don't, you have to be taught that, and it's not part of our curriculum in most situations, I think. um, and it's not always taught to parents to teach it to their children. And if they haven't learned it, how are they going to pass that on? So
Exactly.
just the very basics of teaching that as a primary education is essential to a
I
society, I think.
I I cannot agree with you more. And maybe that's a whole nother topic around like,
Hmm.
why is that? Because I think there was this movement, specifically back in the 70s, when there was this great wraparound of services that were funneling their way into public schools because there was studies that had been done, and there was this thing called the Great Schools Project, that had to do with making sure that there were psychologists in schools, that there were school community agents in schools, and all these different wraparound services to help parents and students gain more of a grasp around their relationship with each other, their community, and themselves. So, because again, the science tells us that people who have high levels of EQ are typically very successful. in their lives, no matter what they decide that they want to do. So I'm glad that we're talking
Yeah.
about this today. Listen, we're going to take a quick break, everybody, because there's a whole lot to unpack here. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes. Soulivity.com. I want to share some exciting news about our new Aspire Academy by Soulivity. Now, you probably want to know what the Aspire Academy by Soulivity is. Well, it exclusively connects you with people around the globe and who share the intense desire to improve themselves and create a better life for themselves today. There's classes, there's workshops, there's live events, and even more exclusively just for you. You see, I wanted you to have a safe space where you could grow, you can learn, and it would empower you in all aspects of your life, including your mind, your body, and your soul. So how do you get started? Well, it is so easy. First of all, the best part, joining Aspire Academy is absolutely free. Just click on the Join Now button, sign up, and begin your journey. As a special part of this invitation to you, there are some free courses that are available for you to try from our amazing roster of coaches and collaborators. It's our way of saying thank you for all of your support and being with us along our journey of expansion. I hope you enjoyed the Aspire Academy by Soulivity today. Start the process. Learn more about your passion, your purpose, and how to live a higher quality life. Hey, we are back here with more of Soulivity today. Again, I've got my special co-host today, Sheila Applegate, is back with me. Hey, Sheila.
Hello.
One important aspect of this is self-awareness, right? I mean, I kind of want to make sure we're breaking this stuff down so that people understand what we're talking about here. When you're hearing those words of being self-aware, what does that mean for you, and how does that show up for you in your life?
Well, I think self-aware when we're talking about emotional intelligence is that, identifying and learning the various names and emotions and the whole spectrum of them and realizing how your body responds to it. So that you can identify it from the physiology of that, realizing what triggers certain emotions, what emotions you're comfortable and not comfortable with. And yeah, so that would be the beginning awareness. And then we move on to, what to do about it. But what about you?
I totally agree. When I'm thinking about it in my own life, I remember there were times at which, when I was younger, that like anger and frustration are two different things, right? There's a nuance there, right? Um, um, being sad and depressed, those can be happening at similarly the same time, but they're still two different things, right? And so I think that when we're going through the process of digging a little bit deeper, and I know in my own life, having gone through that, getting support around understanding these differences and really just kind of like being with myself and allowing myself to learn all that there is to know about myself in terms of how I feel, what I want to do, how I want to spend my time, what emotional states I'm in. The more I was able to delineate and express what those things were, and I think that for
Right.
me was being self-aware. um, um, this is probably, I mean, it all begins with awareness, right? Being able
Mhm.
to understand what's going on with you at a deep, deep level, um, so, so that you can articulate it, but also so that um, you can make choices, right? I mean, that's got to be
Mhm.
part of it too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking this kind of moves into self-management, but I'm remembering a time when I was, I think around 8 years old, and I had been sent to my room for something. I don't know if I was spanked. A couple times in my life I had been spanked, but my mom came into the room after a while to say that I could come out, and I was still crying, I remember, and I'm like crying, and I'm like, I'm not ready yet. And I stayed there to cry. And I think, I mean, part of that was just that I am stubborn, but the other
Right,
part
right,
was
right.
that
Oh, you're gonna
I
send me
still
to
was
my room.
releasing the right. But the other part is I was still crying. And I think that realizing that management sometimes is letting it release, right? I
Right,
think in our society, we kind of tend, you know, I mean, the United States as it is was started with Puritans, right? They weren't really
right,
all about the feels. So
right, right, right.
um,
No,
I think
no.
there's an underlying sense in our society of that. And so we think often of management as like contain your anger or suppress the depression, get up anyway. That
Right.
is one level of management that's taught, but true management of the self and your emotions is to learn how to be in them, to use them, to allow
Yeah.
them to strengthen your life.
It's funny because in the video with Daniel Goldman, right? And he was talking about, there
Mhm.
was the question of, are women more emotionally intelligent than men, right? And aware. And it was interesting that he said on whole, women are, but there's very nuanced differences, right? And that women
Mhm.
know more about empathy, right? Which we'll talk about in just in the next segment. But men, when it came to self-management of their emotions,
Mhm.
were typically better than women were. And I thought that that was interesting because men are taught to manage how they come out, right? So either through
Right.
suppression or there's choice emotions that as a man you're able to express, right?
Right. Can I just say on that, and I'm gonna say, I really, I think that that's a question about what we think, and the fact that he called
Yeah,
the bosses a son of a bitch made me not
yeah.
really wanna listen to what he had to say about whether we were able to manage our emotions as women. Just saying that.
Right. I thought that that was amazing. I was like,
That was
wait,
just not okay. It kinda leaked,
Daniel.
yeah. It
I
leaked
said,
through that
hey.
he may have a little intelligence to learn about what emotions in females and males
Right.
are.
I said, you had me all the way up to that point, and then I had to move through that part. But yeah, I mean, it was actually a when I wanted to make sure that we played all of it because I wanted to kind of use that as like a jump off board because listen, this is a ongoing, ever
Mhm.
experiential, ever educating kind of thing where you're digging deeper and deeper and deeper and you're mastering it more and more and more, and even our experts have to go through the same things that we are, right?
Right.
And so I just thought that
We
that
can
and so
have it.
and
We
so
can have a talk with
self-management.
him.
So again, great conversation. I knew this was like the best. You were the best person to do this with. Listen, we're going to take another quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about empathy and how that revolves around emotional intelligence and being aware, and how if you didn't know what empathy is or maybe confused it with compassion, which is a different emotional state. We're going to tell you all about that in just a second. So we'll be right back in a couple of minutes. Find all of the Satana products at our Go shop at go.soulivity.com.
Hi there, Sheila Applegate here with some exciting news. I've joined the incredible Soulivity team as the host of the new Consciously Awesome live show, where I will be sharing insights to help you discover your full brilliance and claim the vibrant life you deserve. So tune in every Wednesday right here on Soulivity TV to join the fun, and remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single episode. Have an awesome week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
Hey, we are back here with more on Soulivity today. We are discussing the real meaning and understanding of emotion. We have Sheila Applegate back with us as well. Sheila, we were just,
You're still laughing on that one.
Yeah, I know. I can't. Everybody, if you missed the last one, just go watch the video. About halfway through, you'll know exactly what we're talking about with Daniel Goldman. But anyway, empathy. Woo! This is master. This is like postgraduate level stuff here. And kids get it though. They can get it immediately if they're kind of taught to do it.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you think, well, let's break this down first, because I think one of the biggest misperceptions is that compassion is empathy and empathy is compassion. They're not the same thing, people. They're not. They're
No,
related,
they're not.
but they're not the same.
Right.
Go for it, Sheila. You give me your definition.
So you said a postgraduate education, and I did learn this in my master's degree too, right? So anyway, and in my undergraduate. But so we were trained and taught, because as a clinical therapist or social worker, you need to know the difference between these. And so, but the difference that they would delineate is sympathy. So sympathy is when you feel sorry for someone. Empathy is when you feel what the other person is feeling. You can put yourself in their shoes and experience it. I think compassion is like can weave through any of that, right? That's a way you can be compassionate and in either of those categories. So the difference is like the step up of actually being able to feel or understand or put yourself in their position and kind of join them in that rather than feeling sorry for them.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that is an important delineation that I think, and teaching, like you said, I think kids naturally do that. It's just watching the adults understand that and then mirroring it back for them and telling them what they're doing and the difference, or helping them point out, what do you think your brother feels when you do this? Why do you think they're crying? Things like that.
And and again, this all comes together with the last step that we'll kind of talk about in a second, which is skilled relationships, right? But if there is one significant piece where it supercharges our relationships with other people, right? Not just our relationship with
Hmm.
ourselves, but our relationship with other people is empathy, in my opinion, right? Where
Hmm.
where you can literally take yourself, your stuff, right? Like there's a difference if someone is going through something in their lives and let's say it's a disconnect between you and your partner, right? And your partner is trying to express to you how they're feeling about whatever that disconnect is. I find that a lot of times the block is for most couples and and those kind of situations, or even if it's a work colleague, is we try to make what they're going through about us, right?
Hmm.
Like
Right.
like like oh well, um that's not as important as what I'm feeling. Having empathy means and being aware, because these are all connected, right? Having empathy means I can still feel whatever I'm going to feel about that situation, but I'm going to take a moment and allow myself to experience whatever this is through that person's heart and mind and soul,
Right.
so that I can really understand at a deep level what that means, right? And
Hmm.
that gives you a whole different insight
Right.
into this other person, right? And that you can now love them fully.
Hmm. Hmm.
You you know what I mean? What do you think about
Yeah, I think that that's true, and it's a part of all of our relationships, even our
that?
interactions. I'm
Yes.
thinking like
Yes.
I'm remembering back when, I was dealing with my parents and Social Security, and my life was so tense because of what was happening with my parents and everything going on. And then I'm getting on Social Security on the phone, and I'm now projecting my frustration, and then to stop and I always try to do that, especially if I'm on with like help or whatever on the line, because you come in with that, and then to stop and be like, oh man, this person has talked to 30 other people just like me today. How
Right,
can I
right,
remember that the
right.
person on the other end of this phone is probably got a whole bunch of stuff going on, and they're just trying to get through and make some money, and do their best. And so it can be as simple as that. And sometimes when we look at it in those simple places, we can apply it to big relationships as well, just by starting in the smaller ones.
Right, right. Exactly. I mean, and I also find that empathy, to your point, it opens up the relationship even that much more, right? I mean, it opens up
Right.
people, because when two people are having empathy with each other in that moment, it's like there's this automatic release of
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like the vulnerability
And I
just kind of comes in and it's very peaceful.
Yeah, and as you say that, I think, because I was going to the simple um situation, but in that, as soon as I remember to have empathy, the person on the other end changes, right? So in all of
Yes.
in all of our interactions, it's like you take that first step, and once somebody feels seen,
Yeah.
heard, and understood and felt, they're going to then look at you naturally. Not all the time, but the
Not
natural
all the time.
instinct is to then turn back and say, "Oh, right, this is a human." "Oh, right, this person cares about
Right?
me. I care about them." So, yeah, it takes one. It takes one to be empathetic, and then the others follow.
Exactly. It's like universal disarmament, where
Yeah,
both people kind of
yeah.
put down their, because they're ready, you're like ready to shoot. And you're just kind of like saying, no, let me pause and take a look at this from the other person's perspective. Um, Sheila, this is so good. Oh man, I'm loving all of this. This is wonderful. Listen, everybody, we're going to take another quick break. We got more of this coming up. We're going to be talking about how all of this comes together, right? Because part of being emotionally intelligent and aware is actually utilizing it and practicing all this stuff over and over and over again in skilled relationships. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with more of Soulivity today in just a couple minutes.
6 years ago, when I started Soulivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance, and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit Soulivity.com now.
Are you ready to take that first step towards true, unwavering inner happiness? Are you like thousands of people who have everything they need, not want, but need, and still can't seem to find happiness and fulfillment in their lives? If so, the Steps to Happiness show is for you. On my show, you will learn about the principles and practices that lead to true inner happiness. Because guess what? It isn't found in our external environment, but within ourselves instead. Together with my guests, we will explore the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices. And together, we'll advise you on the actionable steps you can take towards a happier, more fulfilled, authentic life. So I invite you to join me each week on Soulivity TV on the Steps to Happiness show with me, Teresa Greco.
Hey, we're back with more here on Soulivity today. We are Sheila is back again with me here because we're going to talk about how all this stuff comes together, girl, because you know, you can be aware, you can have good self-management, you can have empathy, but if you're not relating to another person utilizing all this, you don't become skilled. And so you can't be like at home watching TV and be a master of this. You literally have to go out and relate to people and practice this
Right.
and do it. And so that's the skilled relationship part of it. What's like, Sheila, when you're like coaching people, in terms of them manifesting their lives and that kind of thing, I know this stuff comes up, right? Because I mean, it's just kind of part of the journey. What do you tell people about like this part of being emotionally intelligent and aware? Because I think people forget about this, that we actually have to practice it. We can't just say
Right.
we do it.
Right. And I do a lot of relationship coaching and working, with higher consciousness relationships. And so that is a part of it. And it, like you said, mastery can just keep going. It's like a skilled craft, right? That the more you work at it and the more conscious you are of it, the more you can create in that space. So yeah, I think if we're starting, like start out little, you're just learning your own self at first, if that hasn't happened yet. And then practicing feeling and noticing and experiencing and understanding what people around you are aware of, or feeling. And then bringing those all together. A lot of times when people come to me, they're often, coming from either a parental relationship or often what we would call romantic relationship. And so those are usually the most loaded. We sometimes think, oh, start there, but really, if you are if this is new to you, start on the easier, littler ones and then move up to your deeper ones, right? Because I work with a lot of twin flames. So those are ultimate triggers. You can't run from
Right.
each other. You have to be emotionally intelligent to be in a deep soul connection, and especially if it moves into a romantic relationship. So, yeah, it's taking one step at a time. And for me, it's fine tuning people and helping them. Sometimes it's as much as helping them process what they would say or what text message they would say to someone to get to their
Mm.
truth. And even those little
Oh
things, even though that
man.
seems little, the more you get to your truth, the more you communicate that, the deeper your relationships go.
Right, right. And just to be clear, everyone, you know, you you can read books about being self-aware and read some tips about being, self-managing your emotions. And you can even, watch a video about being empathetic and that kind of thing, and really understand it at an intellectual level, right? Where you understand all these different concepts. But if you're talking to someone and they make you angry, and your first reaction is to blow up and blow them up, you might want to kind of rethink getting some help in learning how to communicate your emotions a little bit better, as well as if someone else is trying to talk to you, and your first reaction, like most of us are when we're not emotionally intelligent, is to get defensive, right? We're like, we have to
Mhm.
protect ourselves, right? um
Right.
Number one, we're not taught this stuff, right? We're not really taught how to be in an emotionally healthy relationship and conversation with other people. When people are upset with us, our first reaction is to defend ourselves from harm, because that's just, we learn
Mhm.
fight or flight. um
Right.
this is a higher level of being in communion with someone, where you're disarming all that. And believe me, it is completely and utterly worth it, though it is still work, right? And it's the effort of creating your best life in terms of how you relate to other people. That's why we're talking about all this. This is so vital to creating your best life today.
Mhm.
People are we don't get through life without other people. And so this is all about learning how all that can come about, and how all that can happen for us. um Sheila, you were just talking about how you're counseling people. You represent what I tell people all the time, and that is, you're not alone. If you're having trouble moving through all this,
Mhm.
get some help. Go out
Right.
and seek some support, because that's also part of being in a skilled relationship, that you're understanding that I need this help to become more self-aware,
Right.
right?
And then, even in training for counseling social work, you have to go through counseling yourself. It's a normal thing. We
Voila.
get trained in every other area of our life, but this is where we need to train in order to bring everything else together.
Right.
And some basic things to just give people tips on if they're kind of moving and thinking about this is, don't be afraid to apologize. And this comes with your kids and your partner
Ah.
and your
Mm.
boss and everyone. Like if I,
Right.
as a parent, even when they were young, if I got, yelled at them or like restricted something because of my own emotions, or I said something not exactly as clear as I meant. Yeah, maybe the core issue was it, but I said it in a not healthy way. Whoever the person, child, partner, or someone on the street, I will apologize and
Right.
take responsibility for that aspect. And then that opens a space to go and explain more, and to be responsible for my own emotions and to get comfortable with other people. Like if you're with a partner who is, you know, gets angry, you and expresses it in some way, as long as it's not harming anyone, then just get comfortable sitting in that until that is over so you can talk about it.
Right. Right. So freaking lutely. Oh man, I'm so glad we're talking about this. Listen, we got to squeeze in another quick commercial break, everybody, but we've got more of Soulivity today coming up. So we'll be back in maybe about 2 minutes.
Would you like to be one of the first people to experience mental freedom? Mental freedom is a coaching practice with 6 core principles: improving hope, self-efficacy, optimism, resilience, and general well-being. Mental freedom only takes 6 sessions. It is designed to give you the tools you need to help yourself. It can help with any situation: relationship problems, past trauma, career decisions, parenting challenges, addiction, and mental health concerns. Incorporating the mental freedom framework into your life will deliver an approach to master any situation and a pathway toward achieving inner peace. Mental freedom provides the information and tools that you need to grow and be bigger than anything that ever happens to you. So if you're looking for one-on-one or a group coaching program that will allow you to address any situation that comes up in your life with practical tools to give you more peace and joy, then join the Mental Freedom Program in Soulivity's Aspire Academy. There are very limited spots available, so don't delay. I hope to see you there.
Hey, we are back here with more on Soulivity today. Wow, Sheila, what a great show!
Yeah, it
What
has
a
been
great show.
good.
You know, any final thoughts about any of this that you're thinking of?
Well, I think we just touched the surface. I like that when we had that backdrop of the video, which was actually an intellectual way of looking at this, but I think we went into the emotions as we explored here in our conversation. And so
Exactly.
I would encourage
Exactly.
people to just really be open to exploring emotions. I talk about, helping people
Mhm.
to be able to experience the full spectrum of emotions with love and grace, and then joy,
Mhm.
as we talk when Helena is on here. So it's possible to explore all those and to learn how to make your life more full by being in that aspect of understanding your emotions and living in them. And then as far as relationships and applying it, it is a learned behavior. It is something to practice, to hone, to learn. And just like any other skill, get help, whether it's reading books that will support it or going to a therapist or getting a coach. I mean, it's
Right.
important to invest in one of the most essential aspects of living on earth.
Mm, 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 mm. I don't know if I have anything to add to that. Because I think,
I didn't
yeah, I
give you
mean,
much time, but
yeah. No. Listen, I think that this is all good because I think you just encapsulated everything that I was thinking about this too. This again, it's a when we talk about emotional intelligence and all that, I think people just move directly to the intellectualizing of
Mhm.
all of that, and that it is much more than that. It's much deeper, and it is how we feel, how we open ourselves up to feeling and really enjoying our world around us at even a deeper level. I mean, it's the difference between going overseas and seeing something, or here, I mean, the first experience of like the Grand Canyon, right? And you're looking at the
Mhm.
Grand Canyon and you're seeing, oh well, this was 50 million years old and da 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 da, and what a marvel of how the earth da 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 da, or just connecting with it at a spiritual level and letting that emotion come rushing into you, right?
Mhm.
And how
Yeah.
you feel about it. It makes life more special. Listen, we got some shameless plugs to do here, right? And you've got something that's always appropriate, especially when we're talking about this. And this is your soul connection sessions. Can you talk a little bit about these?
Yeah, in my soul connection sessions, there are individual sessions that you can do through Zoom or phone from anywhere in the world. And really, it's a session designed to meet you where you are. I approach it from all of my skills, from my skills as a therapist to a spiritual channel, an energy healer, and spiritual reader. But I can see after this conversation, if you want to see where, kind of talk and find out where you are and how you could move into a deeper space, your next step on your evolution of embracing your emotions and living from that space. You can do that at SheilaApplegate.com. And because you're here on Soulivity, if you use the code SOUL44, you will, or no, I just got that wrong. Soul 23.
22, 23.
We'll post the code. I think it's Soul
Exactly. We'll
23
post the
because it was
code.
for the year.
Right,
It's
right,
for
right,
the
right. So we'll change
You'll get
that
40.
next year.
Oh, yeah, you'll get $44 off. There's my jump to 44. I'm
And
so
of course,
emotional today, I can't speak.
I know. I get so emotional, baby. Also, go check out soulivity.com, where we got some really great new content that's just fresh. It's fresh, exciting, like the song says. You can read more about our announcement around our new commitment to health equity, as well as this great lead article that we're talking about ways that you and your partner can get closer. Also, on social media, where you can learn a little bit more about everything that's happening in our world, including tips and all kinds of good stuff just for you. Sheila, it's so good to have you here, man. But we're running out of
It's
time.
wonderful to be. Yeah, yeah. And we get to do it
So
tomorrow.
listen, I know. So listen, everybody. I'm just going to say, have a great rest of your week, and remember to join us next time on Soulivity Today. Bye for now.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.